Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nan Benally. I'm going to be your moderator for this session today. Today, our session is called Increasing Family Involvement in the Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court. Again, welcome to everyone. Next slide, please. As part of our opening, I'd like to do a small opening in a good way, as we always do with our sessions. I'm going to be doing a small prayer in reference to going along with our topic today about family. Call your spirit back. It may be caught in corners and creases of shame, judgment, and human abuse. You must call it in a way that your spirit will want to return. Speak to it as you would a beloved child. Welcome your spirit back from its place. Tell it to come home. Tell it you are wanting to be with it. Welcome your spirit back as we gather today to talk about family, to talk about each other. Gather them together because it may return in pieces, in tatters, after wandering from its spirit. They will be happy to be found after being lost for so long. Your spirit will need to sleep a while after it is bathed and given clean clothes. Now we will proceed with the presentation. Next slide, please. As part of our panel today, I'd like to introduce our three panelists that are joining us today. First, we have Teresa Nord, who is our training and technical assistant specialist. Teresa, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Welcome. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Teresa Nord. I am a descendant of Dene and the Indigenous peoples of Mexico. And I am a training and technical assistant specialist with Tribal Youth Resource Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And next we have Erin Thin Elk, also a Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court consultant. Erin, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Nan. Welcome, everyone. I'm with you today from a very rainy Minnesota, which is better than the snow. So yes, I'm happy about that. Really looking forward to engaging with you all today. Let's see. So I work with the Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court side for the Tribal Youth Training and Technical Assistance Center. And let's see, I love to cook. I love my babies, and I'm really passionate about our families and our youth and our communities. So I'm very happy that you're here.
Thank you very much, Erin. And last but not least, we have Chaniel Grant, who's also a TYRC consultant. Shanti is on an on-site visit, so she'll be joining us remotely. Shanti, can you check in with us and tell us a few things about yourself?
Yeah, okay, next quick. Nastu Anakok Matoyiksi Sinaki. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, my relatives. My name is Chaniel. Everybody knows me by Shanti Grant, and I'm the coordinator for the Blackfeet Juvenile and Adult Healing to Wellness Court projects, and I'm a consultant for Tribal Youth Resource Center. And I'm really happy to be here today from rainy Seattle.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad to be here, everybody.
Thank you very much, Shanti. So these will be our three panelists today guiding us through the presentation. Next slide, please. And here we have our usual disclaimer about our grant under which we're presenting this presentation. Next slide, please. So we'll have, this is just a brief overview. Erin, would you like to talk about this?
Sure. So our time together, we're going to have a brief overview starting out of Juvenile Healing to Wellness Courts and looking at the 10 key components. And then we're going to engage with you and do a group activity looking at how you think about or define family. Then we're going to move into traditional Indigenous family engagement, family roles and engagement. Then we're also going to look at juvenile healing to wellness court family inclusion and communication, and have some dialogue surrounding the importance of those components. We have selected some resources for you that you should find very helpful that will be sent out, I believe, after this presentation. And then we will close, but before that, have some questions. Also, we would really like this to be very interactive. So as we're going and moving through, if something spikes your interest or if you have a question, please feel free to just put something in the chat. And somebody from the team will alert us, and we'd love to hear from you. Next slide, please. All right, so the Healing to Wellness Courts, just a little background again to touch base to get our foundation for the presentation today. So if you remember, the Healing to Wellness Courts were adapted originally from the drug courts. And around 1997, something like that, that year is when a group of elders and professionals came together and really started to look at, the original court system was not working for our communities. It was not approaching the way that we wanted to be working with our youth and families. It was not giving the outcomes that we were hoping for our relatives. So the Healing to Wellness Courts emerged out of that group that came together. So you can see it's really looking about enhancing capacity, providing services that are comprehensive, developmentally appropriate, community-based, and very much so culturally appropriate. Okay, next slide, please. Hey, Shanti, I think you have this one. It's talking about the Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court and some of the people that are involved in the team.
Yeah, so I think this is like the real the biggest piece of the puzzle. I like to consider it like a puzzle, but I really like to use the term synergy to describe a juvenile healing to wellness court team. Your community really should come together and include people on the team who are key stakeholders in and it's really individualized. So including people, making sure you have a lot of resources, partnerships with resources in your community to be able to sit on your team, kind of on an individualized basis. But for me, the term synergy, it means if we're more effective as a unit than individually. So taking that into consideration when you're choosing who's going to be on your team. For us, our school system is really a huge key to our team. They just have so many resources, and bringing them on was a huge, we broke down a lot of silos just adding them on to the team, because there's so many programs in our school system, so many, we're serving the same kids, but using the leverage of the court to be able to be active in this kid's life, but also holding them accountable. But I love the Healing to Wellness Court model just because the model is all about accountability, and I really feel like we're able to hold the family and the child accountable, but we're doing it in a loving way. And it's more about support. I like to say it's like wrapping them in a blanket of, wraparound services. It's like a blanket. You're hoping you're covering them up so that you're covering and protecting that youth. So that's my guidance, is just to make sure you're really selecting the people who are caring about the youth in your community and have a big part in that. Next slide.
Thanks, Shanti. So here we're looking at the 10 key components. And just a reminder that this is a framework for healing to wellness courts. So as you're moving through the slide and reading the different 10 key components, as Shanti was talking about, it's very so much individualized on the strategies and on the different models and approaches that work for your individual community. So that's very important to remember, that this is a framework, this is a great guide, but when it comes down to it, when you're choosing your team, when you're choosing how to implement these 10 key components, it really has to do with getting together a good group of people and coming together to apply these in the way that it works best for your community. Go ahead and go next slide. So as you saw on the previous slide, one of the 10 key components really highlights the importance of culture. So when we're thinking about culture and families, we know that often our communities and our families are just so critical to our health and wellness overall. So when we are working with juvenile healing to wellness courts, and we're working with the youth, we really need to think about what are their caregivers, who are their caregivers, what are their supports, like who are their family, and how are we going to approach them and engage them to support this youth in the best way possible. So when we're thinking of that, we're like, oh gosh, what is family? That can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we're going to pause for a moment and do an activity with you all. So if you're able to pull up the whiteboard, Antonia. Thank you so much. So again, on the left side of the screen, you can see that there are different tools that you can use. So there's a pencil, you can draw something that represents family to you. You can click on the T for text and you can type in something that represents family to you. So if you just go ahead and engage with that activity, maybe we have some artists in the group here today. But yes, please feel free to draw or type in what family looks like to you and your community. Any type of characteristics or things that you think of that when you come up. I'm gonna also. That was my attempt at a heart. Because I feel that the youth are, the heart of our people and the heart of our nations, and, coming together for the benefit of their future well-being, their current well-being, and the overall community health is so important. So that was my attempt at a heart. Okay, we got some good things going on here. It looks like someone else put in love. And thinking of family, someone shared mother, father, grandparents, aunties, grandkids, community, and clans. Thank you for that. Road trips, nice. Was that one of our team members that did the road trips?
Erin, somebody had mentioned in the chat, I think a couple people are saying that they don't see the tools on the left-hand side.
Oh, shoot.
Which I don't know if we need to
Yeah, I
ask.
don't see the tools either.
Oh. Antonia, can you assist us with this?
Giselle says, family is unconditional love. Feel free to use the chat if you have some ideas as well.
I'll write them in if they're not able to do it.
So sorry about that, you guys. Technology can be so wonderful. It brought us here together today, but then sometimes things like this pop up. But yes, like Jacob said, if you could just feel free to put something in the chat. Ashley, you said overall spirit of my family is potlatching, gathering over food and the good meals my family would serve. Yes. I identify with that too. I realized in my introduction, I didn't even say I was Sichago Lakota or maybe even like that I'm a social worker. I was like, I like food and I love to cook. So I'm there with you. It's very important. Oh, Nana's potato salad and sun tea. I'm looking forward to sun tea this summer. Storytelling, laughing, and talking through problems. Wonderful. Love it. And Lisa, when you're thinking of family, you think of fried bread. Fried bread, yeah. Yum. Very good point. Can also be tough love and holding each other accountable. Yes, absolutely. And Pat, family includes both sides, Hopi and white Texans with their different cultures, but both with big extended family. Yes. Shanty is matriarchs.
This drawing thing is a little more challenging than I thought it would be. I can't seem to get to do anything.
You know,
That's funny.
I tried to do my heart and it just, I don't know what it.
Your heart is amazing. I'm trying to draw a longhouse and I can't get it to go. So everybody just bear with us, erase some of these things.
Well, wonderful. Thank you guys so much for engaging with that. It looks like people are pretty much done sharing, so we could probably go ahead and go back to the presentation now. But thank you so much. We just wanted to have a little bit of an icebreaker, and it's so important when we're working with our youth and families to, you know, have that that time to just sometimes pause and reflect and process and engage with one another. So we wanted to do that with you all. All right, we can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Hey, thank you so much, Erin, and everyone who was able to participate. It's, you know, it's always fun to kind of do a little bit of an icebreaker, have everybody really kind of participate in the best way that they can. And we thought that that would kind of be a fun exercise. So hopefully you guys got a couple giggles out of us trying to work the tech stuff. But you know, what I really heard was a lot of different descriptions of what family is. And you guys had some really wonderful additions to, you know, what we have here on the screen. Traditionally, you know, and historically, Native American families have really been a unit of one, regardless if it was, you know, in the community, if there was multiple different family units, it was really just kind of seen as one unit because everybody kind of worked together, the hunters, the gatherers, you know, the protectors, the mothers would help other mothers with the infants and the little ones. So it was really like a larger extension of a family. And we, you know, we've seen some of that up on the screen talking about, you know, aunties, uncles, cousins, you know, extended relatives that, you know, regardless if they are blood or not, they're still an extension of their family. And so, you know, it was, I think, essential for survival. You know, back then and still today, you know, in many different ways. And so when we think about like juvenile healing to wellness courts and kind of the structure of it and kind of the wraparound services, and when you're engaging with different community members that you want to bring in as staff to then work with the youth, it's not just the youth that you're working with the whole family. And, you know, if it's kin that you're working with, great. If it's the, you know, mom, dad, or it could be, you know, a sister or a cousin. And so really just treating the whole family as one unit, and really just caring for them all. It's not just the youth, like I said. So, Antonia, if you can move to the next slide, please. So, when we, like I had said before, it's not just the biological, it's really the extended family unit that you really want to do these wraparound services with. I really, really loved how Erin said, wrapping them in a blanket. And I had the same experience several years ago, actually, with working with the drug court. And that was my experience, is what I got to see is really the judge kind of meeting them where they were at, right? It wasn't up on a podium. It was speaking to them one-on-one, looking into their eyes, engaging the youth, engaging the parents, engaging the family members. And then, you had it was kind of like our family units that we're talking about, except it was, a court family, and they were really, whether it was somebody who would take samples, for drug testing, or just all the way around, it was like this wraparound service that they had with the parents and the families. And so that's what I kind of think about when I think about the inclusion of community and family and the extension kind of the services. And it doesn't necessarily have to stop with like probation and judges and, UA techs and so on and so forth. It could be in mental health services. And it wouldn't be just for the youth. It would be, meeting with the parents or the caregivers to say, what can we do to help best support you? What services can we provide? Because if the parents or the caregivers aren't cared for and feeling heard, then the idea or the expectation of the youth showing up in the same capacity would probably be nil, right? So we really just want to make it a kind of a family, healing to wellness court, and not just about the youth. So Shanti, do you have a story that you want to include with this slide, or would you prefer to wait to the next one?
I think for this one, I love the previous slide where it said that families can be decision makers. I think that's like one of the biggest thing of the Healing to Wellness Court model is you're giving these families their voice back. The traditional court system, there's people there to speak for them. It's all about, you're protecting that individual's, the story that they're telling is kind of stifled in that system. So with this system, you're actually giving this family their voice back. You're able to let them be a part of the process of planning their, how this program is going to work for them and with them. So for me, that I really try to include that in the, especially in the beginning and the intake process, just letting them know that they're going to have a voice in this process. And we're not going to structure the program around their, a cookie cutter program. We're actually there to meet them where they're at.
Teresa, I have something I just thought of. I was thinking about how we were conceptualizing what family means, and the slide, when we went through the 10 key components, and that culture is a big part of our Healing to Wellness courts. And I feel like family could even be our earth and our connection to our land. And so that's the thing that I absolutely love about our Healing to Wellness courts is that we get to individualize it to our tribal communities, and the earth and our land is very important to so many of us, throughout all the different seasons. And the fact that, that could be one of the parts of the program, getting out in the land, involving the culture, if it's, harvesting berries or, going out and picking medicines, things like that can be involved within our Healing to Wellness courts and engaging family and youth. So I absolutely love the fact that we have that ability to do that with Healing to Wellness courts.
Yeah, absolutely. I really, really love that you included that, Erin. The idea of being able to support these families, if it would come down to, they don't have regalia and they would like to go to, a powwow, figuring out a way to support that, is it that, are there monies that are set aside that you could help support, getting that regalia put together? Do the grandparents or the mothers, do they, are they able to, bring forth maybe a ribbon skirt or a ribbon shirt or, things like that. So really being able to bring culture into this court setting. And, I think about one of the settings that, a courtroom that I have worked in, that was completely transformed. With the artwork, it was very intentional. It had medicine set aside. There was the ability to smoke off and smudge off in the facility. There were star quilts that were hung, and there were stories that went along with the artwork. And so it was a very comforting type setting when you would walk into the room. It wasn't kind of like the scary, stale, walking into, kind of a courtroom that you would normally think of, right? And so when you're, really including the thoughts of, the elders that are in the community or working with that family, as well as the parents and, cousins and siblings, and it's all inclusive, and you're wrapping it around with, culture and, that, like Erin said, kind of the strength of the earth, and really supporting that. So yeah, I think I'll move on to the next slide. Thanks, Antonia. So again, just talking about kind of the inclusion of family and communication with guardians, parents, whether it be foster parents or grandparents. It's all really making sure that, like Shanti and Erin were talking about, giving them a voice, right? Allowing them the platform and the space to not feel like they're walking into a punitive system, but rather a really wholesome, culturally based system. And so, that goes along with the case planning. And like Shanti was talking about, like, it doesn't need to be this cookie cutter. Yep, we've got to go in, we got to check the box. Oh, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you show up for this? Did you get that signature? I feel like, when you have a system like that, it's very, it's kind of scary to walk into. And it feels very punitive. And certainly we're going to hold them accountable if there are instances that warrant that. But, it's not going to be something that we, need to make bigger than what it is, right? So just really supporting them and letting them know that, yes, you need to be held accountable, but we're going to be there for you every step of the way. With the families and bringing them in, like I said, with the decision making and, including them in the entire process. Does that look like incentives with gift cards and movie nights and things like that? Obviously, we want to include praise and acknowledgement of the hard work that they're doing. And we also want to be able to support the families if they're not able to make it to the court hearings. Are there bus cards or gas cards that can be provided? Is it, where you can come up with movie tickets for the entire family? To celebrate maybe the changing of a phase, things like that. So really just providing a lot of extra support that would then, I guess, in turn look like incentives, right? You're doing a great job. You're showing up to your court hearings or your weekly meetings or, whatever that looks like. And we're acknowledging that. We're praising you for that. And we're making it a family thing. And for me, like Erin, like the most of us on here, food is a thing, right? So if you can, any kind of food, for me, it's like, I'm a foodie. So I don't care if it's a salad made from the earth or if it's an amazing cheeseburger. I really, I appreciate when, meals are provided and things like that. So, going back to, telling a story about the courtroom that I worked in, and one of the things that we came up with was an annual gathering, and we would get together at the park and we would do a cookout, and we'd have, the kids running and playing and sprinklers and all of that type of things. and it was an annual thing. So the entire family was invited out, and we were able to support them in getting there. And so it was just something to go above and beyond, outside of the normal realm of what you would think of with a court case. So I think with that, I will pass. Back to you, Erin.
Okay, so we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Is it Jen? I think I'm saying your name right. You had shared in the chat that, thinking about families that really struggle with involvement because they already have so much going on. So yeah, I mean, just stop. Yeah, like Teresa has been saying, and just stopping and thinking about what can up the engagement factor, what can make them feel more connected. So you had really great examples there with the bus passes and things like that. And so again, with the Healing to Wellness courts, with those 10 key components, with maybe there's certain family or elder, et cetera, protocols that are particular to your culture and to your community. So again, really look at those, see how they can be integrated into your Healing to Wellness court to further engage the youth and the family. We have a couple of selected resources here for you. So the first one is a tribal best practice for family engagement toolkit. I chose this one because it's based on a Society of Care framework. A Society of Care framework, or actually it's called Systems of Care, but so many of our tribal communities that have adapted this framework have changed it to societies, because so many of us have traditional societies and roles in our communities and our families. And so this toolkit has a lot of great information on how to engage a family through all the various parts of, working with them. So it's not necessarily completely for Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court, but it really has a great approach and great strategies. So I would encourage you to check that out when you can. Another tool that we selected was the Strength, Needs, Culture, and Discovery Manual. For those of you that have been trained in wraparound training or are implementing high fidelity wraparound training, this is a tool that a lot of those different programs use. And it's an assessment tool. I absolutely love it because it really, like it says in the title, looks at strengths as well as needs, really brings in cultural components in order to, work through the outcomes that youth and family would like to see. And so it's a great tool. I know we have some other tools out there too. I'm just kind of curious if anybody else has come across a tool that really seems to work, or a resource that really seems that you've had a lot of success with in your Juvenile Healing to Wellness courts, or any other programming. Shanti, do you have a specific?
We've been using the youth assessment screening instrument YAZI tool to kind of help us with the screening process, and it's just a really good visual tool for your team to use. It kind of prioritizes the individual needs, and also talks about protective factors that the youth has already. So it's kind of a strength-based tool. And I believe the developer of that tool is called Orbis Partners, ORBIS partners.com, I think is the link. But that's the tool we use to kind of help us case plan, and kind of we use the top 2 needs. It does prioritize the top highest needs to help you kind of, I guess, have goals for, I guess each kid can help you develop goals to work toward meeting those needs. So you kind of can sit down together and brainstorm how to tackle those. And then you just move through the whole, you can reassess them as you go. Use that tool to really help you guide your case planning, and it's been really helpful. Sorry, I don't have the link. I don't even know if that's the right link, but I'll try to get that to you guys after this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shanti. I know in previous presentations that I've done, I talk a lot about the youth personal balance tool. And I think that's also a great resource. If you go on our website, I believe our past presentations are accessible. If not, you can always contact us and we can get you those presentations. But this particular tool also is really great because it's really strength-based and brings in the medicine wheel framework about balancing mental, physical, emotional, what am I missing? And spiritual. There we go. And spiritual when they're thinking about their future goals and how to engage culture in that too. So did we have anybody else say anything at all?
I just kind of wanted to make a little comment too. So all screening tools, as you probably all know, they're not developed with for Native children. So there is that con in a lot of them that you got to think about. But for me, I think the best way to adapt that, we started using the cultural connectedness scale to help us kind of see where they're at, the youth are at in their connectedness to their culture. So we do a pre and post survey. It's an adaptable scale, but that's how we kind of guide our cultural component with each kid to kind of measure where their needs are culturally as well. So that it measures 3 subscales, I think: traditions, spirituality, and the other one is customs and beliefs, that kind of thing.
That is a great tool. That is absolutely a great tool. I think we've presented a little bit on that before as well.
We've mentioned a lot of resources here, and Jacob's been really wonderful that he put down the our tribal youth resources area on our website. So if you don't find the resources that we're talking about, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can get those resources to you. So these women here are just wonderful. They have a lot of resources, as do all of our staff. So anytime that you need any help with any of the things that we're talking about or that you may be wondering about, please reach out to any of us and we can get some of these things that we're talking about to you. And if we don't have them, then we will surely do our best to try to hunt down something that you may be needing or wondering about, or maybe have heard about in the past and haven't been able to locate it. So go to our resource library and also reach out to any of us on the panel or any of our staff with the TYRC.
Thanks, Nan. Yes, if anything throughout this presentation or any future presentations, please reach out to any of us. I absolutely love when people want to have a Zoom and put on some coffee and talk about, you know, what they can do to improve like family engagement, you know, assessment tools, anything. So like Nan said, please feel free to reach out. We can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Erin, can I add in there quickly
Yeah.
too? One of the things that just came to mind for me is, you know, if there is the ability to include maybe a mentor of some sort, whether it's, you know, a community member, an elder in the community, or there are several different mentoring programs that can be incorporated in with the Juvenile Healing to Wellness courts. And we do have some resources at the Tribal Youth Resource Center on mentoring. And so it could be molded into something that works best for your program. Certainly feel free to reach out to your TA staff.
Thank you, Teresa. So we're moving towards our closing, but some of these are the key takeaways to think about. What steps are needed to support youth as they develop connections within the local community? What steps will the team take to support whole family involvement and coordinated communication with parents and caregivers? Also, posing the question about what resources are needed to implement either of these components within the Juvenile Healing to Wellness Court. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. Does anybody have any questions, or as we are moving through this presentation, did any idea or concept pop out to you? Or feel free to share if maybe there's a great lesson learned that you would like to share, or something that a very successful family engagement strategy. Love to hear from you guys. We learn so much from you too. Just give you a little bit of time if anybody wants to put in the chat or even unmute. Okay, Lisa, thanks, Lisa. Can you share how you incorporate your elders in the wellness court process? Shanti, I think that might be for you.
Yeah, so our community advisory circle did a community readiness assessment, and really through that process, what we found is that our community really is crying for our culture to be at the center of our whole, all of our programming, and it's the key to healing our community from substance use disorder, trauma. So their strategy to try to target that was to get a program or some sort of teachings. We developed 13 modules together in a cultural forum. So we invited 65 of our elders and knowledge keepers in the community to come together and give us guidance on what does a basic, or what does an identity, a kid with a strong Blackfoot identity look like, and what do you teach them to get there? So they were a huge part of us developing. They developed those modules with us, and they're things like they thought it was important to connect them to a name. A name is important. A Blackfeet name is kind of like your first transfer in life. So that was a big part of them helping us. So there's teachings in those modules, and I can't share them all today with you guys, but that's how we did, the elders were kind of the driving force in what this little project came out to be, and that's the modules. So I feel like that really gave the community ownership too of the program. So just if you can work with TA, we had an amazing TA provider back then. She really helped us get that going too. So your TA is a big resource for you in that area too.
Thanks, Shanti. It looks like Pat had asked if anyone is using family group conferencing in their juvenile healing to wellness courts.
I have heard of that being used within those kind of the court system. However, I've really begun to realize that is such a really Western model. And so, being able to maybe take that same concept and turn it into something that's culturally based, that's indigenized. And it would be up to you. Like Shanti was speaking about, like the Blackfeet, what would that look like in a Blackfeet court, right? It wouldn't be a Western model, if that makes sense.
Oh no, I'm smiling because actually the whole restorative justice movement started because I can't even remember his name. That's supposed to be kind of like the father of restorative justice, who's non-native. He actually went to native communities and saw what we were doing, especially up in Alaska too, on how families and communities come together to help someone that, was going through a hard time, whether or not it's in the justice system or not. So, yeah, so that's kind of, going back to that is that strategy or that family conferencing did come out of our Indigenous
I think it's
culture
really,
and our family systems in way that we come together to help a relative. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
I've heard of the Indigenous model of the restorative practices being something that, is used for prevention, right? So our youth don't even get into a juvenile healing wellness court. It's really, like we keep talking about that wraparound service, that wraparound care, and what does it look like to decolonize and restructure a program that is Indigenous and that works for each one of our communities individually. Chanty, were you going to say something? I think we got you cut off there.
oh no, I typed it in the chat. I just thought of something. We really include our elders in our staffing team meetings, and our elders sit on our advisory circle as well. So that's another way we have elders involved in the program.
Is there a way that we can unmute Pat? Because I know that she brought up some really good points that they do this in Alaska in their advisory circles.
Absolutely, I agree. Is there any way I'd love to hear from her.
Laura or Antonia, is there a way to unmute her?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I was worried I wouldn't have the technological ability to unmute myself. Yeah, so Rural Cap is doing circle trainings all over Alaska, and they bring in, I guess, Cheryl Fairbanks, who's an attorney who also does a lot of circles all over the place with different tribes. And I was watching her do the circle training, and I saw a little bit of family group conferencing process where she did the circle, but then she paused it and sent the extended family out to another room. And then they decided on their own plan going forward as a family. And then they came back into the broader community circle, shared that plan, and got everybody to support it. And by the end of the circle process, that extended family, I mean, it was all a mock, right? But I could see a little bit of that family group conferencing process that gets used in courts being injected into the circle. I think Cheryl is ingenious. And of course, she taught this all as I guess Teresa was saying, she really let that group of Alaska Natives design this with their own cultural spin and values injected into it. But it caused me to realize that, I mean, we could all argue about where circles came from or who did it first, but when a Native community takes the process and builds it out themselves, it's all theirs, right? I mean, it's all them and their culture. So anyway, it was really fascinating. And I was in my mind trying to figure out how to make this work in a juvenile drug court context. Maybe different from orientation. In addition to people being included in staffings, maybe there's like a little component here that would do amazing things in a juvenile court process. I'm just thinking this. I don't know that anyone's ever tried it.
Thank you, Pat, so much. I was able to go to a circle training a few years ago up in Alaska. So I know of some of what you're talking about with what's going on, and it's really beautiful and amazing. And I know that it's made a lot of difference and been successful. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention and to sharing.
Janae, did you want to also add your, since you said you've also attended that training? You can unmute yourself, I guess. No?
Hello. I don't really have any additions. I just wanted to chime in and say that I had also been to the training. It was my first time being able to go to one in person. And it was just really powerful, so beautiful. And our court is currently focusing on youth right now, but we plan to open that up to youth and family. So that's our plan moving forward. And we've actually been working with Pat and with Rural Cap, trying to figure out how we can get some more training and just get things, just keep working on things and improving. So it was beautiful, and we do plan to incorporate those talking circles into our program.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so
Thank you, Janae.
for
I was
allowing-
gonna say, I know Ramsey County, if anybody gets the chance to maybe Google it, Ramsey County contracts with circle keepers to come in and work with the youth. And so I haven't seen that specific program, but I do know that that it's been around for quite some time. And certainly I'm sure you can find some information on that, or we can maybe look for that for you and share it with your TA staff.
Okay, well, we're winding down to the last few minutes, and thank you so very, very much for all of your participation this morning. We really, really appreciate the comments and also your own examples of what you're doing in your communities and how this is working with you. And we really can go ahead and I'll send it over back to Antonia, and then we'll also close in a good way as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to pull up the session evaluation. If you can please complete the evaluation before you head out, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and do the closing in the good way, as well as your before you do their evaluation. And also like to thank our panelists today, Erin and Shantae and Teresa. You did a wonderful job. I really appreciate the hard work that you put into this. And thank you for our support staff, Jacob and Laura and Antonia, for helping us in the background. We really thank all of you for coming for today. And I'd like to close with a prayer for our poem by Joy Harjo. Pray you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you, and to know that there is more, that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments, steadily growing and in language. There aren't always sounds, but other circles of motion, like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue. In wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we're all made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born, and die soon within the true circle of motion, like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for joining us today. Shanti and Nan, Erin, Antonia, thank you all for your hard work today.